today's demo is going to be about doing easy collage. So if you've seen collage quilts, think Laura Heine, paint by number kind of quilts. Let's call this the kindergarten version of that. If you can kind of get used to doing that stuff, you're unstoppable once you get some ideas of, or even just the basics of how to do this. There's just no stopping you. And then you can get into the ideas and the patterns and the brilliance that is like Laura Heine's patterns, which is a whole other level of this. But sometimes people get freaked out by them because they're so involved. So we're going to talk about some tips and tricks on doing some simple collage. So today's is going to be like a first in a series of things we're going to do. I try to show a lot of Karen Montgomery's patterns. 2 reasons. 1, she's a great teacher. 2, these are the kind of thing you can do right quick. Okay, these are not pages and pages and pages and pages. They are, things you can do right quick. What I like to do is provide stuff that goes with her patterns with some tips and stuff that make you confident to go ahead and do it. So one of the things I really like is this pattern, which is called Collage Runner. So it finishes 15 by 40, so it's the kind of thing you can do in an afternoon. And it's easy to make up something real quick. So if you know you're gonna have a party this weekend, or you've got an anniversary party coming up, or some event and you wanna make some really nice decorations, these make great party favors, by the way. So, coming from I used to do flowers a lot. I used to do floral arrangement and stuff. So, how at the end of the party, everybody wants to take your flowers home? Make some of these up and then they can take this home. So, these are a lot of fun. And the pattern finishes 40 inches long because you can make it out of one width of fabric. But if you want it to be longer than that, make it longer. There's no rules. It's your party. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. We made up some kits that come with the pattern and some fabric. If you want to use your own fabric, that's fine. We're going to talk about some supplies and some tips that make this process go really easy. The first thing we're going to do, in the kits that we're going to show you at the end of the video comes the pattern. And the pattern will give you all of the size measurements and instructions on how to do the basic steps I'm going to show you. But sometimes a little, live action demo is really great. So I won't be giving you sizes or anything because that's all on the pattern. The first thing that we're going to talk about, the pattern calls for using Steam Seam 2. The stuff that I like to use is a Quilter Select product called Applistick. It works very similarly to Steam Seam 2. The things I like about this just a little bit better is that the glue that is in this product has silicone in it. So what that means is as you go to quilt this and your needle goes up and down through the fusible, it doesn't gum up your needle. It actually keeps it clean. So that is my biggest thing that I like better with this one. There's a couple of the little things I'm going to talk to you about too, but that is the product that we are using here. So it comes in either a 12-inch roll, actually comes in a 20-inch roll now, or an 8.5 by 11 sheet. Anybody want to guess why 8.5 by 11 sheet? Because if you want to do applique out of things that are already printed out, you can run it through your printer, which is really great for those of us that write like a crazy person. But for the sake of this project, you don't have to print anything out. We're just going to take a piece of fabric. This is what's left over of what I've already cut apart. In your kit, you'll have a 12-inch strip of fabric, of focal fabric. On the back, I'm going to flip the fabric right side down on my mat. You want to make sure that either your fusible is smaller than your fabric, or that you're using an applique pressing sheet, because you do not want this sticky stuff on your iron. Now, the way this stuff comes off of the roll is that one side feels like wax paper, and the other side feels soft like fabric. So you're going to take the soft side and put it to the back side of your piece of fabric. Make sure your iron is good and hot. And I like to press it from the paper side before the fabric side. because if you press it from the paper side, it really heats up that glue. You want to make sure your iron is hot but dry. This is not the time for steam, okay? And of course I turned my iron on before this and she went to sleep. So we're just gonna iron this from the back side. It does get hot, so one of the tips is once you've pressed it on, let it cool before you pick it up. I'm not saying you're gonna lose fingerprints, but you're probably gonna have red fingertips. So turn it around to the cotton side and press it again on the cotton side. This just ensures that you don't have any, you haven't pressed any folds into it anywhere. But it really does stick down really well. But you do want a hot, dry iron. All right. So now we've got our fabric with our paper on the other side. Since what we're going to do is take and cut out these shapes, which I've already done, I sat here for the last hour and just cut out a bunch of shapes. Next, we're going to talk about some tips for the cutting. So what I will do, which I already did with all of these. So here's pieces that I cut out from the other end of the fabric over there. I just sort of rough cut all these different shapes out of the fabric. And I'm going to show you why I rough cut them first. So just sort of, find the pieces that you want and cut around them. It doesn't have to be pretty. You just have to have, manageable sizes. So this is your fabric side, this is your paper side. So we're going to cut around this butterfly right here. Here's a couple of tips on cutting. I like Karen K. Buckley scissors for a number of reasons. These scissors are probably 10 years old. I still use them almost every day. They have a serrated blade on the inside, a really fine serrated blade. Think like your steak knife. The reason that that's really nice for this procedure is because, one, you've got paper on the back side, so it's not going to dull your really nice, knife blade scissors. And because it's serrated, the sticky stuff won't stick to it either. So you're going to get a really smooth cut because of these tiny little serrated pieces. Can you see that in there? I'm not sure if I can get close enough for that. See those tiny little teeth? That makes this process good. These are the scissors that I like. The size of them is the ones that I like. Here's the weird thing. My husband has these giant, like, gorilla hands. He likes the smaller scissors better. I don't know how he gets his fingers in them, but he does. He says that these ones are more awkward. I'll show you the other size that he likes better, which is why I can't find my little ones. I think he has them in a box somewhere. But here's another little hot tip. You hear me complain about this kind of stuff all the time. Don't buy this stuff off of Amazon. There is a company running around Amazon making these exact scissors that look just like this. The handles are a slightly different color without Karen's signature on them. They are fake. They are fake. They're fake. Don't buy sewing supplies from Amazon if you can help it, because a lot of times they're fake, okay? They won't work like this. They will not still be sharp in 10 years. And you might save $2. Okay. So now I have rough cut this butterfly out because I just wanted, I don't want to fuss with a big piece of fabric. So if you kind of cut the big piece first, here's a couple of tips. If you keep your scissors straight and you move the fabric, so I'm just cutting into the fabric a little bit, I'm going to turn the butterfly to go around these little curves. I'm not turning the scissors for two reasons. One, my wrist would be cranky if I did. And two, you get a much smoother cut if you just slowly turn the fabric instead of turning the scissors. All right, so if you tried to turn around these curves with your scissor hand, it would get choppy. You would not end up with as smooth of a piece that you're cutting, okay? So I'm just gonna cut all the way around the edge of this butterfly. And I don't turn my scissors, I just turn the butterfly, okay? Now, oh good, this is happening. I wanted this to happen so I could show you guys what to do if it happens. If you get halfway through your piece, and maybe your iron wasn't hot enough, or for some reason this is starting to come apart a little bit, just hit it with the iron again. Don't go and try to cut it while they're separated, because you're not gonna get as smooth of a cut, and your glue isn't gonna go all the way to the end when you go to iron it down. So just go back and press it down a little bit, it doesn't take much time. And then when it's, don't try to handle it when it's hot either, because the paper gets really warm. All right, so that didn't take that long. I want you to notice a couple of things. It's not perfect. See how there's a tiny little bit of the background fabric there? It's okay. Nobody's gonna get hurt. If it makes you crazy and you wanna go back and trim some of this out, go for it. But it's really not that big a deal, you'll see when it's done. But look at how pretty my butterfly is. It's a butterfly. Okay, so that's how we're gonna cut out the shapes. Like I said, I sat here for the last hour and I just cut out a bunch of shapes. So we have all these beautiful flowers. Look how pretty this fabric is. You wanna have some nice big flowers. You also want to have some smaller things. So I tried to cut out various sizes. All right, so we're going to get rid of this mess here. Now I already prepped my background piece before we started this, because again, who needs to watch me sew just one straight seam? The pattern gives you the measurements of what you're going to need. Notice I didn't even cut the selvages off. I just sewed 2 pieces of fabric together. You're going to trim this down when it's all done anyway. And I like to have extra pieces, extra space, so that I can trim it where I want it to be. So this is about 40, you know, the width of fabric is about 43 inches long. The pattern just calls for a 40-inch space. So I left mine a little bit long because I want to be able to go back and you know, maneuver it. I'm going to take my biggest pieces first. Now here's the other reason I like this fusible. It's called Aplastic for a reason. Right now, it's just sort of like wax paper on one side and fabric on the other. The reason that I like this is because now here's another hot tip. When you want to take the paper off the back, just take a pin, a straight pin, and scratch it down the middle. Don't stab it. Don't do this with scissors. Don't use a knife. Just use a pin and scratch through the paper. And then when you bend the paper, it'll peel off. Peel it from the middle. Don't sit here and scratch at the corner of this and fray up your fabric because it's harder to take it off. So it peels off really easy when you scratch it from the center and then just take the big pieces and pull them off. And you'll get all the tiny little details to come off that way too. Okay? And there's no picking at the corner. It's like when you were a kid and you'd get stickers and then you couldn't get them off the thing. This is tacky. Can you hear that? It's tacky like Scotch tape. It's not like glue, it's not sticky, it's not coming off on my fingers, it's just tacky. And the reason that that's really cool is because I can take and position it wherever I want and just kind of pat it down, and now it's sticking there. But it's not permanent. So if I decide I don't want it like that and I want it this way, I can peel it off and stick it back down again, okay? This is repositionable until you iron it. So, you know, take all your other little flowers. You got all these flowers you cut out, and you're going to have about, you know, 100 of them or so by the time you get done with this process. And just unstick them all. And you want to put your big flowers down first, which is what these ones are. And I'm just going to do, like I said, I'm going to scratch the middle of the paper, peel the paper off. Oh, because I put it underneath the other one. And then you're just going to stick them around wherever you like. The secret to this, you'll notice this is a 2-tonal piece of fabric. I opted for this one to switch it instead of putting the light at the top. I wanted the bigger side to be pink and the lighter side on the bottom. You want to cover this horizon line. So this is your horizon. You want to take and put your flower pieces down where they cover that line. It gives that sense of mystery, right? You can overlap your pieces on top of each other any way you like. And again, I'm just going to keep sticking these in places wherever I think they look happy and cover this horizon, right? All right, so now I've got these stuck down, and then I'm like, you know, maybe I don't like that there. So even though this one is underneath this one, I can peel this back because it's just tacky, and I'm going to pick this one up and put those underneath there. Or maybe I don't like it there at all. I'm just going to take it off all the way, and I'm going to stick it over here, okay? So you just keep taking all your pieces. This is the butterfly we just cut out. And I like this particular bundle has a bunch of butterflies in it, so you don't have to stay right along the horizon. Maybe this butterfly wants to hang out with these flowers, but this butterfly, especially since it's smaller, we can take her and move her up into the sky, okay? Again, you can keep moving these around until you get them where you like them. So maybe she flies up here, and maybe this butterfly flies up here, okay? So we're just gonna keep putting these around wherever we like. Then when we get our big flowers laid out, we can come back by, don't throw anything away. So as you're cutting out your pieces, save, let's say you just save this tiny little daisy, okay? And if you wanna get really crazy, go ahead and cut around all the little pieces, and then you can just take and tuck her up underneath here and underneath there. Maybe you just need a little bit of camouflage here and there. Okay, these aren't cut out yet because they're just the rough cut ones. But we're going to cover this horizon space. Now, once they are stuck where you like them, this is the moment of, you have to commit here, because once you iron it, and you don't have to kill it, but you do need to press it. I just messed that one up. You know why I messed it up? Because I forgot to put down my pressing sheet because I'm a doofus. Where's my pressing sheet go? I don't know where it is. I like using a pressing sheet for a number of reasons. One, that's the one. Thank you, Steve. See how I just boogered that up and took the paint out, or took the plastic or the glue out? Don't do that. Put this down on top of it and let the mat hold it where it goes. And just lightly press them. That's enough to melt the glue, okay? So now once I have pressed it where I want it, these aren't coming off anymore, okay? So even if I pick at these, they're glued down. This is where they live now. They have to be happy there. I'm gonna pull this out just because it's gonna bug me if I don't. Now, this isn't gonna be a problem in a second, and I'm gonna show you why. When you get this all laid out wherever it is that you want it to be, you're going to quilt it. There's no quilting this until you have everything glued, all right? You use a monofilament thread. We talked about monofilament thread a couple of weeks ago. Not a nylon thread, or not a polyester, I'm sorry, I have that backward. Not the nylon thread. The nylon threads are stretchy. Remember 20 years ago when we tried to do like machine applique, and we had this thread that we got from who knows where, and you would stitch with it and your machine would make a stitch and then it would pop back up and your thread would be like stretchy like a pair of nylons. The thread we have now is a polyester thread, and it doesn't stretch, so you don't get that boingy effect. It doesn't stretch out as it's making a stitch. It makes it really consistent. That does a couple of things. One, you don't get as much breakage, and two, it lasts a lot longer. So remember back in the day too, we had those like satiny comforters that had the clear stitching thread in it, and after you dried it about 4 or 5 times, those threads would just snap. So then you ended up with a non-stuffed something or other, and they would just snap. So you also don't get that with this thread. So what I like to do when I do these kinds of things, if you're not comfortable with your free motion quilting, this is a great time to practice your straight line quilting. It's a wonderful time to bust out your walking foot with your monofilament thread. Just stitch you a nice little grid, okay? Now, here's some tips with quilting it. If you're gonna stitch from here to here, don't come back up here and stitch from here to here. Stitch from here to here and come over a little bit and stitch up, and then come over a little bit and stitch down. Come over a little bit, stitch up again. If you've ever seen matchstick quilting, it's kind of, it's not really uniform, it's a little haphazard, but it's just a whole bunch of straight lines together next to each other. That's a really good time to use this. If you really dig what you have going up and down, then go side to side and just sort of like make this sort of like netting thing with your stitching. It'll hold it all down. As an extra little tip with that idea, you can add a layer of tulle over the top. If you want to be super extra, you can get some of that tulle that has the little bits of glitter in it and put that over the top and then stitch it down. So if you're really nervous that maybe this isn't going to stay down or whatever, it sort of disappears into the stitching and just sort of like blings it up a little bit. Okay? So those are my basic tips for how to do some simple collage piecing, or a simple collage table runner. If you are afraid of what you're gonna, make this out of, or what you're gonna try it with, we made a couple of kits up that make it really easy, and I just showed you the stuff that's gonna make it easy. So these scissors, this fusible, and that mat are really all that you need to make this process simple. So is everybody gonna try this? It's a lot of fun. My plan for this project, this is gonna be a lot of fun, is to make some Alexander Henry kits based around this. So think Day of the Dead, think bats, think Frida Kahlo, think shirtless cowboys. So we're gonna make a couple of those kits up, and those will be available on Friday's sale. So if you want something a little bit more funky and a little less floral, show up for Friday's video and we're gonna have some fun ones. All right, so this is the sheets. So the reason that they started making it in sheets is because if you were gonna do pre-sized shapes, so let's say that you wanna do this flower, but you want it to be in a heart, then download or draw a shape of a heart, make your copies, do your thing, run this through your printer, iron this onto the fabric, and then cut out your heart. Here's a tip to that though. You want to rough cut your shape out of this and iron it on your fabric. Don't cut it on the line until it's pressed to your fabric. The reason for that is you want to make sure that the fuse goes all the way to the edge of whatever you're going to cut. So if you fuse it onto the fabric first and then cut the line, your glue is going to go all the way to the edge of what you're cutting. Okay? So for today's sale, number 802 is a package of apple stick sheets. There are 25 sheets in here. So there's quite a few to do decent projects. This does come in a 10-inch roll. I can also get this in sort of like a industrial size pack that is 20 inches wide and 25 yards long. I just ordered that for somebody last week. So this is like a must-have if you like to fuse two pieces of fabric to each other. Okay. Number 803 is a pair of Karen K. Buckley scissors. These are the purple ones. These are the ones that I was showing you just now in the video. Again, mine are like 10 years old. They still look like this. I use them all the time. They do come with a cover, which I lost a long time ago. The other thing I like about this is when you're in the store, you can actually put your hands in the package and see what fits your hands. I do like the bigger ones, but that's just because I like making longer, smooth cuts. So number 803 is the large pair of Karen K. Buckley scissors. DJ prefers the middle size, the medium size, because I don't know why, because honestly, he really does have giant fingers. He must only put 2 fingers in there. But this one, same thing. You can hold the package and try it out. It still has a cover. The blade is about 2/3 as long as the large one. So depending on what your style of cutting is, you may prefer the medium size, which is also great. If you're doing fusible stuff, in general, if you're doing fusible stuff, it is handy to have an Applifuse mat. So this is sort of like a sill pat for when you make cookies, but it's meant for fabric. So what happens with this is, so remember a couple of weeks ago when I showed you guys the powder that you shake on to make things fusible? This is brilliant because if it gets on here, you let it dry and you just rub it off, and the glue just rubs off of this, and then it doesn't stick to your next project. Or if you put this on top of what you're going to glue and do what I just did, and the glue comes out from underneath the fabric for whatever reason, it doesn't get on your iron. Okay, so an Applifuse mat is handy to have just in your sewing room as a tool. The next thing, which we didn't get to the sewing part of today's function, is it's monopoly, so I call it Monopoly. It's Monopoly. I mean, if you're gonna create an item that's a pun, why not use the pun? I like it because it comes with a stocking. So a couple of tips for using Monopoly is if you have a machine that will let your thread stand up straight, it's helpful. So let your thread stand up straight, and it comes with almost like a fishnet. that you slide over the fabric or over the spool of thread so that when it spools off the top, it doesn't sag back down and get stuck onto stuff. So I like that. It's a polyester thread, so it doesn't stretch. It comes in a clear and it comes in a smoke color, okay? So that's that thread. Next, we're gonna talk about the bundles that we made. So the first bundle that I made, and all of the bundles are gonna come with the pattern included. They're gonna come with 2 background fabrics. So like the one I just showed you, here's your 2 background fabrics. Remember, I had a bigger piece of pink and a smaller piece of this really cool sort of modern cream color. I gave you a little bit extra from what the pattern calls for, so if your seam isn't really straight or you want to make it larger and trim it down, you can. All right, so these are your background fabrics. This is the one that I gave you a 12-inch or a 1/3 yard cut of this fabric for one reason. This is a stripe print, so it gets thicker on the bottom. So you have these really big, bold blossoms on the bottom, and then they get smaller up the top. So instead of giving you fat quarters, I gave you a 1/3 yard of this one. This is a really pretty fabric. This was called Dazzling Garden. And then you have 2 other fat quarters. This one has really big, bright blossoms on it. And then this one I put in there because I thought it offset the butterflies really nicely. So you could cut out all of these shapes and then you have some lighter butterflies. So wouldn't it be cool if you took like a white butterfly and then layered it like a shadow under a colored butterfly like this guy here? You could do all kinds of fun things with it. But you're gonna treat them all exactly the same, iron on the fusible, and then cut out your shapes. So this is the butterfly bundle. It also comes with a 1/2 yard of fusible fleece and the binding. So your binding is included in here too. The only fabric you're gonna need with these kits is a 1/2 yard of fabric for the back. I always try to keep my kits cost more reasonable, so I don't usually put the backings in. I let you do that. But it does have everything else, including the binding. So you'll need the kit, you'll need the fusible, and then you'll need sewing tools, and all of that is listed on the website as well. So that's the butterfly collage. Then, while I was on a roll, I went ahead and made another collage out of just Anna Maria Horner fabric. So this one, I'll show you what the background colors are. This one's really happy. I like this one. The background on this, here's your light for the top part. Here's your bottom. It's like a nice bright yellow. Your binding, and then you get fat quarters. So the fat quarter on one, I think this one was called Sinister Gathering, because you have these big, beautiful moths. Look how pretty those would be. Plus you could cut out these vines and put them underneath the moths. You wouldn't waste any of this fabric. Then you can't have Anna Maria Horner fabric without coneflowers in there, echinacea. So you get an echinacea fat quarter. This fabric, I love this fabric. It's weird, but it's great for this kind of process because you've got these really great purples and big green dahlia flowers. There is a lot of elements out of here that you could cut out for collaging. And then this one was just fun. You could cut out whatever shapes you want, or you could stick with this. This is supposed to kind of like books stacked on top of each other, or stripes. You could use this to cover your horizon and then put all the other things on top of it. You could cut flower shapes out of the stripes and make that another element. I love her fabrics. Her fabrics are so much fun. So that's the Anna Maria Horner bundle. Again, all the bundles come with borders, with binding, the pattern, and the fusible fleece. And then you also know how much I love me some Odile Beaulieu fabric. She's my current favorite. This one's pretty. So in this kit, we have, it's all Odile fabric except for what I chose for the binding because, well, it's a pretty striped binding. You have a light background. This is your bottom part of your horizon, these really great little bubbles. And then I used the fabric that was in my Mariner's Compass quilt. So you've got these big, beautiful blossoms and birdies. This one is called, oh, it's called the Garden Thief, I think. Because you've got, I can't think of the name of those birds right now. And the pearls and the backgrounds. Look at how pretty that, that centerpiece would be. Then you have the pink flowers, but in a smaller scale and smaller birds. This would be so much fun to just cut these big shapes out of. And then this line was called Confetti. This is another one of those that has bigger prints at the bottom, and then they get smaller as they go up. So you could cut out all kinds of smaller elements out of this one. Lots of big, beautiful, bold prints in these. So those are the bundles that we have. So hopefully they will get you moving on a project. And then you don't have to figure out what colors you want to do and all those good things. That's what I have for today's demo and sale. This week's Wednesday sale is going to be books and patterns. You guys really liked that last time, and I'm still cleaning out this pattern wall. So that's what Wednesday's sale is going to be. And then this Friday, we have a couple of extra little things to show you too. So I hope to see you Wednesday. I hope you guys have a really nice time. And, you know, don't be strangers. See you soon. Bye.